All right, the Amazon is on fire, so we wanted to talk to Gregory Wrightstone, who's a geologist. He's got more than 35 years experience studying the Earth's process, and he's got a book called, his latest book is called Inconvenient Facts, and the book was the result of a quest to find the truth about climate change, and he ended up debunking Al Gore's climate crisis. Gregory Wrightstone, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, actually, forest fires is what really got me into this climate skepticism part. Because whenever I got to forest fires and researching that, it wasn't the Amazon forest fires, but fires across the world. I saw that the science, the facts, and the data just disputed flatly what we're being told. And it was at that point I said, oh my God, they're lying to us. And they're lying to us again about the Amazon being on fire.
Well, now what is going on with the Amazon? They're telling us it's burning at a rate that's never been seen before, and the Amazon is called the lungs of the world, and so we're all going to suffocate, I guess. Is that anything like the truth?
The data came from an ostensibly good, reliable source, which is the Brazil's National Institute for Space Research. But the satellites and the data set that they're using wasn't designed to count fires. It was designed as an early warning system, if you will, for the Brazilian government so they could get out ahead of any fires that started. And so they're important. The focus for this was we don't want to miss any fires. And because of that, some of these fires get counted multiple times. NASA data and the NASA satellites are actually much more accurate. Plus, the Brazilian data only started in 2013, so we have less than 6 years of data to work with. So to make any broad statement about record fires when you really only have 5+ years of data is a little bit of a reach. The NASA data goes back to 2003, much more accurate. And I've got a commentary that just was published today, as a matter of fact, and it's up on my website. You can see these charts I'm referencing. The NASA data shows that the number of fires this year in 2019, man, it's dead set right in the middle of the average of what it's been for the last 16 years. Nothing unusual. And what's it's sad, I was going to say it's funny, but it's sad actually, is that the most shared image of the Brazilian fires came from a NASA satellite photograph. It's been shared more than 2 million times. But what doesn't get shared is the caption that NASA used. In the caption, they stated that this year the fires are you ready? Average, so it's mid-range. But then it does get odd. I looked at that same photograph and caption last week, and in the caption last week read, slightly below average. So I think somebody got to the NASA people and said, we can't generate, we need to generate alarm. And if you call it slightly below average, can you please at least get it up to average?
Yeah,
so they made that change.
It is funny. The G7 got together, all the countries got together, and they donated what was like $20 million, which is chump change for all these countries. And everyone was attacking Trump for not being there. But it's not really is the Amazon a crisis? Are we losing the Amazon? I know for a while people were really concerned about that.
It is and was really a problem. It really began in the late 80s. In the 90s, early 2000s, there was quite a bit of rainforest that was, it wasn't really cut down. They used these fires to clear it. And we've lost about 15% of the total original rainforest to this clear cutting and burning. And it's really slowed down and nearly stopped now. And the fires that go these are yearly annual fires, nothing unusual. It happens this time every year this is their fire season. It goes from late July to early November. It's going to peak here in the next couple of weeks. It's their dry season. These are intentionally set fires. They clear the farmland and the ranch land. It's a regenerative process before they plant the next crop. And that's what they do. Some of these, so what we're seeing is that NASA photograph shows smoke everywhere. But if you look at where it was coming from, it's mostly the grasslands and the crop area that, again, it's a regenerative burning process. Nothing unusual. It happens every year. I'm looking at on my other screen over here, I've got another chart that I'm going to add to my commentary that I just found, just showing that this year's actually a little bit below normal, because it came from the fire report, the Global Forest Watch fire report. Very powerful, and just showing that we've actually been in a slight decline in the Amazon fires, and that's a good thing. I'm not going to make light of the dangers of and the need to stop the burning of the rainforest. It's an important environmental niche. But when we get these false reports and hoaxes, it serves just to exemplify just how much we're being lied to about this.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. Your book is called Inconvenient Facts, the Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know. Let's take the biggest idea. Is climate change catastrophic? Are we facing some kind of catastrophic climate change?
Oh, absolutely not. If you would look at the back of my SUV, I've got a big bumper sticker that says "I heart CO2." Whenever I travel, I've got a button that says "I heart CO2," and I give out. People love my stickers. I'm out of my bumper stickers now, or I'll send you one. It's what we see as an Earth that's prospering, thriving, and greening, and humanity's prospering because of it. If we look in historical rearview mirror, just about everything we look at is just getting better and better and better every year. Cleaner air, cleaner water, longer lifespans, more food. And it's what I look behind me in history and we're just prospering and thriving. They look in the future and see nothing but doom, despair, and demise. Well, we're seeing a lot of times I talk about rising temperatures, how rising temperatures and increasing CO2 are benefiting the earth and humanity. The big thing again that they point to are forest fires, and I've exposed recently some other really big lies. Probably the one I'm not going to say proud of because it's a scientific malfeasance that I exposed, but it was recently the UN issued a report on mass extinctions. They said that there would be 1 million species going extinct in the next several decades. Well, for that to occur, we would need to have 25,000 to 30,000 species going extinct each year. I went back and looked at the exact same data set that the UN used. It's called the Red List. It's the closest thing we have to a extinction database. And I looked at it on a decade by decade process where they looked at it on a century date. And I found that rather than extinctions increasing, extinctions have been in a severe and significant decline since the early 20th century. Mm-hmm. And get this. So recall I said we need 25,000 to 30,000 extinctions per year to get to that 1 million. Well, the average, I'm not going to make you guess, the average over the last 40 years was 2. Not 2,000, not 200, 2 extinctions of species per year. And they're telling us, well, yeah, but we're going to get 30,000 pretty soon. No, we're not. We're seeing fewer and that's just one example.
Well, why is this happening? I mean, a guy like Al Gore may have an interest in this, and I'm sure there are people. Michael Mann just had his lawsuit thrown out. He's the guy who did the hockey stick, which he can't defend. But why some of these guys have got to be honest scientists, right? I mean, why is this such a universal idea that we're in such desperate trouble?
Yeah, that's a darn good question. I think once you're invested in this, Michael Mann's got his acolytes that have come after him. He's used and abused the scientific process. Mark Stein's got a great book that he wrote. He's also being sued by Michael Mann. He showed us exactly what you do when Michael Mann sues you. He wrote a new book and he called it A Disgrace to the Profession. You've probably seen it. Yes. And he didn't say anything. He just quoted 100 scientists saying really bad things about Dr. Michael Mann and his processes. And my next book will be diving deeply into the malfeasance that we've seen, starting with Dr. Michael Mann.
But what about these other guys? I mean, Bjorn Lomborg, who's a skeptical environmentalist and doesn't panic and anything, but he says a lot of these guys are honest people, and he trusts them that if they say there is a problem, there's a problem. But you don't seem to feel that way at all.
No. Yeah, there are some that there's good science being done, but they take this and they take the climate models that overpredict warming, and they take the most extreme of the climate models to predict these. Frankly, we need to separate rank speculation that's based on failed climate models from what's actually happening in the world. I live in the real world, and what I do in my presentations, in my book, I look at, okay, they say these bad things are going to happen. Let's take a look and see what's actually happening. So you go and you look at droughts. they're in decline. You look at fires, they're in significant decline. These things that they're predicted just aren't happening. Yes, sea level's rising about the same rate as it has for the last 150 years. There's nothing alarming about that. And they get themselves into trouble when they and shoot themselves in the foot and expose themselves when they do things like this Amazon and the fires. The national climate assessment that was published in November featured forest fires as their main climate catastrophe of the year, with fires on the front, fires on the rear, and stated flatly that fires are increasing. If you look at fires, they've been in significant decline globally in North America and even in California. Get this, people watching this are going to go, what? But their fires in California, according to CAL FIRE, have declined nearly 50% in the last 30 years. They've declined the number. Now, the area burned has increased, okay? The area burned, which means, but that's a forest management problem. That's not a global warming related issue. The Sierra Nevada Conservancy tells us there are 5 to 6 times too many trees per acre in the Sierra Nevadas. Well, that's just, when you deal with a fire, that means there's more fuel. And think about it too, the second largest decrease of soil moisture is the water that's pulled out by each plant. So now you got 5 or 6 times too many trees all competing for that same scarce soil moisture. So it's exacerbating the aridity. We've stopped logging in the U.S. Forest Service area. So it used to be if a fire started, they could get right to it. They could take the logging trails, logging runs, and get there. There's no way in. They're all grown up now.
I have to stop you. I have to stop you here. I'm out of time. There's a lot I want to ask you, so I hope you'll come back and talk again. Gregory Wrightstone, the author of Inconvenient Facts: The Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know. Thank you very much. I hope you'll come back and talk again.